Hello, welcome to J Lowe Artist YouTube channel. Today we'll be doing some drawing with graphite. So get out your pencils, your cotton swab, kneaded eraser, anything that you think you need to draw with. Have it right handy. And let's draw together. Remember, art makes life better. Thanks for being here today and drawing with me though. First of all, the width of your nose is the same width as your eyes. And you've got one eye width in between your eyes. So if you look at the measurement between Gal Gadot's eyes, you know, you can use your fingers as calipers or your pencil or whatever, but you can kind of look at that and say, well, gee, there's one eye in between the eyes. And if we drop down from her tear duct straight down, that's where her nostril is. Okay. The other thing is that the corners of the mouth, now she's smiling, so that brings them out a little bit. But from the center of the eye straight down, it's about where the corner of the mouth is. Everybody is off just a little bit here and there. Some people are exactly spot on. But if you know those things, then you can start aligning and measuring those things out and getting everything about right. If you also go from the top of the eyebrow straight out, you'll see the tip of the ear. From the tip of the nose straight out, you see her earlobe. And so your ear is from the tip of your nose to the top of your eyebrow. And again, not everybody is perfectly that way, but people are darn close. So if you just know those things as you're drawing, it makes it a little bit easier to get proportions. So the first thing we're going to do is, of course, we're going to establish our size. Leave myself just a little bit of space, not a lot, but I'm just going to make a little mark up there and say, that's where the top of her head should be. And somewhere down in here, I'm going to say, well, that's about where I want her chin to be. And so now we've established the size that we want it, and we can kind of throw in that kind of oval shape that's her head. Now, she's not straight up and down, she's off just a little bit. And so when you think about that, your axis between, you know, the center of the head is slightly diagonal. And so when I'm doing that, I kind of take that into mind. You can even put a line there if you want. Say, well, that's where the center of her head is going to be. That's up to you. I don't like the little line usually, and so I don't draw it in. But today I will. And you just make your oval and say, okay, that's her face, that's her head, and the top of her head is up in here somewhere. She's got hair that covers that up. And you can even bring a little bit of that down. Just say that's about where the hair goes. Now, one thing you may not realize is the eyes are right in the middle of the head. And so if that's the top of my head and this is her chin, I can come down and I can kind of measure in between. You can use your fingers like calipers and say, well, this is about the center. Move your pencil down. That's about the center. And so I'm just going to make a little line there, and that's about the center of the head. That's where the eyes go. And the eyes actually sit right on top of that line. So they're not perfectly centered, but pretty darn close. You'll find that your eye, if you were to measure your own head, somewhere around 9 inches is an average skull. Your eyes are about 4 3/4 inches to the center from your chin up. So it's just sitting just up off that line just a little bit. And if you take and measure, if this is the center of your head, you kind of measure out a little bit and you say, okay, that's where that tear duct's going to go, and this tear duct's going to go over here. Then you can say, well, okay, that is the thickness of the nose. It's also the thickness of, or the length of your other eye. So you can kind of come over here and make a little mark and say, that's how wide that eye is going to be. And you come over here and say, that's how wide that eye is going to be. And if you come straight down off of that, remember we're at just a slight angle. So when we come straight down, I'm thinking down the axis of the head. You come straight down, that's how wide your nose is going to be. And so her eye is slightly, I mean, when she's when anybody smiles, it kind of pushes their cheekbones or their cheek muscles up into the eye, and it kind of makes that eye not quite so curved, just slightly curved there. And then this one, and she's looking off to the side a little bit, so your apex of your curve should be right over your iris and your pupil. So I can do that over here and just curve that a little bit, knowing that over here is that iris. This is kind of looking off to one side. Then if you go from the bottom of the eye to the chin and you find the center of that area, it's about right in there. That is not the bottom of the nose. It's actually right in between the nose and the lip. There's this little divot under your nose called the philtrum, and that's kind of where that little divot is. And so if I come up just a little bit and say, well, no, the nose is about right there, so I come up just a little bit, and you have about the width of the eye in between the bottom of the nose and the top of the lip. And if you're smiling, it does the same thing because your lip kind of curves up a little bit. And so I'm just going to come in. I'm going to put in that little philtrum right there. That's that little V shape, and the lip kind of follows that little philtrum. Not always, but usually. Everybody's slightly different. And then I'm going to come to the center of the eye. Come straight down, make a little mark. Center of the eye, straight down, make a little mark. And her lips go slightly beyond that, but that tells me how wide the mouth is going to be. Her mouth is slightly open, and so I'm just going to make that width about what I think it is. Don't go too far, too narrow. Curve that up to those lips. Mouth slightly open. On the bottom lip, basically don't dry in the bottom lip, just do a little shadow underneath it. Eyebrows are always good too, you can throw those in. Just a little bit of a shape. If you throw it in at first and you think that's too big or too small, always be adjustable. That's why we draw with the side of our pencils, because it's easily adjustable. And it's fast. Eyebrows make such a big difference. I'm going to start blocking in a few little things, like where the little smile lines are on her cheeks. Comes straight down off of the inside of the eye, just right there, comes straight down. That's about where that's going to go. And that kind of curves up to above the nostril, if that nostril is right there. You can make a little bracket like that to just show where the nostrils go. And then we can adjust them a little bit later. Remember, we're drawing very superficial. Some of this we might have to erase. You have 3/4 of an eye on the outside too. So if you measure your eye and you think, okay, if I'm going to take off 1/4 of that, just a little bit, you can kind of come out. You can gauge how wide that face on the outside of the head. And your chin is going to curve right. If you go straight out from your mouth, that's where the curve of the chin goes. And we can adjust that a little bit here or there. She's got a little bit of hair covering up this side. The top of the head right here where the hair comes out of the head, I'm just going to do that shadow, that shape right there. And maybe around the eye here, there's a shadow that kind of comes down here from the hair. Don't be too concerned about the hair, because the hair changes. I mean, you know, a gust of wind will come up and change that hair. So now with the side of my pencil, I'm just going to come in and do a little bit of shading, like over the eye. Usually there's a little bit of shadow there. Under the eye where there's usually a little shadow under the eye as well. And I know you can see little wrinkles there. Don't draw in those wrinkles. I'll show you a way to do those wrinkles without using line to get those in. If you use line, then they look old. Corners of the mouth are always a little darker. You can put those in. And when you're drawing the teeth, I'll show you how to do that. Just leave them as a shape. Okay, we'll get the individual teeth later on, but just kind of leave them as a shape. You got to think of teeth as one kind of shape. If you wanted to put a little darkness in her lip or top lip, you could. Bottom lip has a little darkness in it too, but remember there's a highlight. And a lot of that we can get in with our cotton swab. Remember, look how far back I am on my pencil. That's so I don't press hard. You want that really superficial graphite on there. Just very lightly put in some of those shadows that you see. And you're looking at the shapes of them. Triangles, rectangles, whatever the shape is. And hopefully, as you're drawing like this, the likeness of the person starts coming through. It's very difficult to get a good likeness of someone, a portrait, if you will. But if you get the shadows in the right place, that likeness will start coming through. Can't see her other ear, but sometimes the hair kind of curves up and over the ear. So it's just good to know where it is, I guess. Notice I'm not worried about the hair. It's because it's fairly dark. Look at her cast shadow. There are 3 cast shadows. Tells you how many lights there are up there. If it's fairly light, just leave it out. Just scribble in those shapes. Now, some of my guidelines I don't like to have in there. Like, this is why I don't do a central line, because it just gets in the way. And then look at your drawing and adjust it according to what you see. You can say, well, that shadow needs to go bigger, smaller, whatever. Use your eraser and your pencil together to get those shapes closer to what you see. I need some graphite to smear around there, and so don't be shy with your graphite. If it has a little bit of darkness in there, a little bit of shadow, just throw it in. Remember when we were doing the sphere, I mean, if you think about this, her nose is a sphere. There's the highlight, you can see a shadow edge, shadow core, there's the cast shadow underneath. If you can draw that sphere, which you all did, you can draw anything. And once you get to that point where you've got a little bit of graphite all over, go ahead and take your cotton swab and kind of start blending that a little bit. These are the mid-tones that we're going to blend. So her flesh tones have a little bit of gray into them, so you can go up into that. The only part that's going to be left white are some of these little highlight areas, like on her tip of her nose. There's one on her teeth. Even her teeth, as light as they are not going to be white. And just blend that a little bit. We're just, again, it's kind of like a camera where you focus, focus, focus. If it doesn't look exactly like her, that's okay. We are not concentrating on portraits right now. However, if you get the shadows in the right place, then eventually it will look like her. John Singer Sargent defined a portrait like, he said, it's a picture that kind of looks like somebody with something wrong with the mouth. Which is a funny way of talking about portraits, because often they kind of do look like that. So you're kind of ending up with this kind of ghost image. So now I'm going to do a little negative drawing where I go in with my kneaded eraser and pull out little areas that I maybe went too far with, or didn't draw them where I needed to. Because just like we did with the other drawings that we did, we're going to come back into this. We need some contrast. We need to make this pop. Now I'm just going to look at it and adjust it. Just a little here, a little there. Until you're happy with what you get. When you're ready, then you can get rid of your number 2 pencil in favor of that 6B pencil. Because that 6B pencil is what's going to add the contrast. So here goes. I am going to zoom into this so that you can see what I'm doing. And a couple of things that you need to know about the eyes as you're drawing them. We'll zoom into her eye. She has very dark eyes, but if you got a little imagination, it's a little bit lighter right there than it is up there. And you may not be able to see that. A trained eye could probably pick that up. I'm going to enhance that. I'm going to make it a little bit more than I actually see it. You can also see some of these little wrinkles that she's got in there. I'm going to show you how to do those. So we're going to do the eyes, these little wrinkles, the nose, and the teeth right now, because those are kind of important little areas. So I'm going to start out with my 6B pencil here, and you can start wherever you want to. I'm going to start with the iris part. Just a little bit there, and there's a little shine in her eye. I want to leave that out. And I'm not worried about the eyelashes yet. That's like the last thing we do. You can sort of see the eyelashes coming off of the eye. One thing you need to know too is as you look at the eyelashes in the eye, and don't draw this, but I'm just going to show you, eyelashes to the side are going to come out and up, and they'll flip up like this. And as I get towards the middle of the eye, they get a little straighter. So these flip up this way, these kind of go this way. As they get to the middle of the eye, they're going to flip up, and as they get over to this side, they're going to come up this way just a little bit. So it's almost this starburst kind of a thing where they come up this way, like that. Okay. Same thing with the bottom eyelashes. You can kind of see these coming this way, like this. These will come out this way. These will come out this way. These will come out that way. Does that make sense? So when you're drawing your eye, and we do the eyelashes, that's how you want to do those. Okay? But I'm not going to worry about those too much right now. And look how soft those lines are around the eye. So rather than do a line like this, I'm going to do these little zigzags. I can see where it is. In fact, I'll show you. I'll just draw it in like that. But rather than do a line, I'm going to do these little zigzaggy. That softens those edges. You want that shadow to be soft under there. You do a hard line, it looks like a, I don't know, a deep crevice. And I don't want that hard line in there. And even the shadow along the bottom of the eye, I'm going to kind of just leave that out just a little bit. Got to leave that shine out. And then wrinkles are the same thing. These little wrinkles that are come along here, don't do them as a line, do them as a little shape. I'm just going to do these little zigzags back and forth. Maybe a couple little dots and dashes. Little zigzags, maybe some dots and dashes. If I do them as a line, then they look like a crevice. So same thing with any lines that are under the eyes. I mean, everybody's got little wrinkles, but if you put them in there as definite lines, then they look some of these other little areas that you can see they're little wrinkles, but you don't want to draw them in because they're light. I'll show you how to do that too. And maybe right now I'm going to do these little hairs. That feathered line, I'm just going to do a little feathered line in the direction that her eyebrows go. So little feathered lines, just a little flip in the direction the eyebrows go. She's got those deep Mediterranean eyebrows. Which on her look really good. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my cotton swab now and I'm going to blend that and bring all that stuff out. I'm just going to do a little blending here, even in her eyebrow. I'm going to blend some of that. You can kind of pick and choose how much of that you blend. Pick up on that dark graphite that's there and blend that. Those little wrinkles, I'm going to blend those. Under the eye, there's that. And she's got these really tiny little wrinkles, depending on how photorealistic you want to get here. Then what you do is you take your kneaded eraser and go back in and lighten up some of those little areas. And those will create the little wrinkles. Oh, see those little wrinkles starting to happen there with that kneaded eraser? And if you take out too much, come back into it. You layer it in a little bit. And then the last thing you do with that is you put in those eyelashes. And that'll really increase that darkness that's up in there. I'm just doing this feathered line in the direction, just like we talked about, in the direction that those eyelashes go. And the bottom eyelashes. Now, notice her eye, how white it is right there. You look at our scrap and it's not that white. So I'm just going to take a little bit of that eyelash that I just stuck in there and blend it down just a little bit. Because the whites of your eye are not white. And that'll push that eye back into the head. A little more blending and we got it. Once you get enough graphite loaded on your cotton swab, you can draw with that. A couple little areas of her eyebrows I'm going to go back into just to darken those up a little bit. That is a fairly photorealistic eye. Like I say, you just kind of keep adding it until you're happy with it. I remember spending hours and hours and hours on eyes because I wanted them just perfect. All right, let's go for the nose now. Nose is pretty easy, really. A couple of things to remember. Nostrils are something that gives a lot of people troubles because they'll do this circle, or they'll see that dark edge and they'll kind of draw a circle and then shade that in. Don't do that, because it'll end up looking like a hole in the nose, which it is, but you can see into it, and so you want it softer. So the easiest way to do that is you come down, you find the top of your nostril is fairly sharp. So I'd go for a line there. You could do that. Just kind of just start out here with this little line, this little edge. And it's usually kind of a little Nike swoosh, an upside down Nike swoosh. And then when you shade it from there down. And just like we did the little wrinkle, leave it broken. Don't put a line there. It's not a dark edge. Oftentimes there's a little bit of a shadow under that nostril too. So you could just leave a little space between the hole of the nostril and the edge of the nostril, and then we'll blend that. You can throw in your cast shadow there if you want to. Everybody's nose is a little different. That's a defining character of most people. And most people admit that they don't like their nose. So that top edge is a little sharper, but the bottom edge not so sharp. Here's that core shadow, and it's kind of hard to see that reflected light, but you know it's there. So I'm just going to throw in that little core shadow. Don't forget the little highlight that's on there. And so when you blend it, just leave that little highlight out. So you just take your cotton swab and just like we did with our sphere, you start with your core shadow and you blend it down. I'm just going to take a little bit of that off there, just a little bit, just very soft touch. I want to keep that highlight along her nose. Everything else has to have a little bit of value to it, just a little bit. Just going to use the side of my pencil here to throw in some of those values. The little shape that comes down, the little smile line where her cheek kind of comes up in there, just use that little zigzag kind of a shape, and that'll soften right up. Now, teeth. Here's the one that a lot of people have trouble with. I'm going to start with the corner of the mouth is very dark. There is a little shadow that comes under the lip, but inside the mouth, as you're looking into the teeth, it's going to be fairly dark in there. So I'm just going to draw that little area there, and then denote the edge of the tooth. So there's one tooth right there. Then you see some of these little spaces between the lip and the tooth. There's one there. And as it kind of comes around, there's another one there, a little triangle. Just do little tiny triangles. Kind of comes around here. There's a little edge right there. The center of the tooth, right in there. This one, don't see it at all, so don't draw it in. And it kind of comes up, there's another tooth right there. Little edge of that one. And then the darkness of the mouth again on this side. And you can see a little bit of the gum on top. So right under that lip, there's a little bit of the gum. It corresponds to the lower one, which we just did. So you just do a little one there, little one there. Don't draw the lines down to them. We're going to do that with our cotton swab. Little one here. This one is actually off. I made it too long. Go back in and make that not quite. There it goes, right there. A little bit on the middle part, ever so lightly. And don't worry too much about that top lip. We'll get that. There's a little edge on that top lip. Just a little one. There's a little one over on this side too. The middle stretches out, so there's not so much there. The center part of that lip is a little lighter right below the philtrum. So then all you need to do for the teeth, and notice the teeth on the inside as it curves are darker, and so I'm just going to come from there out, do a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, and just kind of bring that down like this, and all of a sudden you'll look at it and go, oh, I see those teeth, without having gaps in there. Don't want gaps in the teeth. Last thing we're going to do is come in with our kneaded eraser. Just pull out any edges, any light that we think we need. Then you can blend that bottom edge into the bottom lip. Voila, there you have it. And again, you can take this as far as you want it to go. In the hour that we have together, we may not be able to get this extremely photorealistic, but those are the areas that I thought you needed to. Don't forget the aspects of negative drawing with your kneaded eraser. You know, if you've got a wrinkle in there and you think, all I see is a little light edge, just use your kneaded eraser in there. Her chin is kind of the same thing we did with the nose. You can see a little bit of cast shadow there. And that defines the edge of the chin. And then just above that, you see that reflected light. So I'm just going to put a little bit of that core shadow. Leave a little edge for your reflected light so that when you blend it, you get that little bit. And if you blended it too much, you can take your kneaded eraser back in there. You can touch that edge just to bring it back out. Or if you put too much in there, because you need that little bit of reflected light. That's going to help define that little area. Her hair helps define the edge of her face as well. So anytime you have dark hair, just pick out the darkest areas. And you can, like, I'm going to just do this little shape that's under her ear and by her chin there. It's just a little darkness. It's the edges that are important. So I can go into this and just shade it, and it doesn't matter which direction I go, it just needs to go dark. But my edges need to come out dark. So I'm just going to bring out some line in that feathered line. Remember that feathered line? It's a little flip. You just flip, flip, flip. And I'm just going to bring out some feathered line from that hair. It goes the direction that the hair is flowing. And if you got some that kind of overdoes her neck there, just going to do these little renegade flips. And again, it's not important if they're exact on. As long as you're close. There's another little shape of darkness. Doesn't matter how it goes in there, but it's your edges. Do a little flip there. Bring those out. You can go up into the light. So like this one on the side, if I just throw in this scribble of darkness, because that's really all it is, and just flip that up towards the lighter area. That helps to define that edge of the ear as well. Right here, where there's a little curl that kind of comes into her cheek, just leave that little space out, and then you can come back into it with your kneaded eraser or something else and pick up some of those highlights. But that's really it. It's the shadows, those dark areas, that you're really concerned about. And anytime you're coming away from the head, like this little hair that's in here, use your feathered line and just kind of bring it into the head like this, so you have that broken edge. And it'll end up looking like hair coming out of the head rather than a toupee or something stuck to the top. You can go from the head or towards the head. And you got it. So like here, I'm just going to come out away from the head like this. Or toward it, either way. So I have that broken edge. I don't want a hard line there. And then that darkness that's in between, you can just scribble that in. Doesn't matter how you do it. But leave that edge. That's what's important. And that feathered line that goes towards the grain of the hair, just pick out the darkest areas, and you got it. She looks kind of strange without that other eye, so I'm going to throw it in real quick, just like we did the other one. Usually right below the eyebrow, there's a little bit of light right there. I'm always mindful of that as well. Cool thing about once you get the hair in, you can always use the hair to get more graphite. So you can come into a really dark spot like down here, and I can come in and go, oh, I need it here. So I can kind of pick and choose where I put it. Little like little wrinkles on the lip and things like that. If you can see those, use your kneaded eraser to get those. Kind of negative drawing, that idea. I always get asked what's easier, dark hair or light hair to draw, and both of them have their challenges and their charms. Dark hair, there's lots of graphite in there. Light hair, there's not as much graphite and a little bit more line. So I don't know. So since the hair is the easiest part and the part that a lot of people stress at, this is what you do. You just find the shapes of darkness, scribble in those darkness, take a little bit of line in the direction that the hair goes. And even if you've got like curls, like here's a curl, I'm just going to try to get that shape of that darkness in the direction that the curl goes, and it will end up looking like a curl. It's fine. It's the edges that are important. So I'm just shading in the darkest areas that I can see, and then on my edges just bring out some line in the direction the hair flows, and it'll end up looking like hair. A little blending, a little kneaded eraser in there, and you got it. Don't stress about the hair. And even those edges where there's a little hair flipping out, just do a little flip with your pencil. And if it's you got light, soft hair, use that kneaded or that cotton swab, and you can pull out some of that hair like this. Give those little renegade hairs. And again, you can take this as far as you want it to go. Lots more you could do to it. Last but not least, take your kneaded eraser, pinch it down, and just pull out a couple little highlights in the hair. Dark hair doesn't have as much highlights. Well, it depends on the light, I guess, but and the last thing you're going to do is sign it. Good signature is part of your composition. Thanks for drawing with me today, and hopefully your day goes really well, especially since you started out drawing, because everybody knows that art makes life better. Hope you have a wonderful day.